Welcome to Real Talk with Donna Valdes, where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, triumph, and hope from some of the most inspiring entrepreneurs, women in business, and leaders from all walks of life. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Real Talk with Donna Valdes. That's me, unless I've been hijacked by some alien right now, AI, but it is really me. And I am super excited. This is where we get to have just real conversations with entrepreneurs, leading, rising leaders, those that have been around, because I think the space is really transforming lately. And having those real conversations that I found were needed. We get so much of the fluff and the shiny mirrors, and we get so much of the positivity. Everyone's positive. But I found in my 30 plus years of doing this, those tough, hard, honest conversations are rare. And so I really wanted to take this moment and have people connect with other people and realize that we're all the same and we all go through struggles. And if I went through something, there's probably a good chance you can learn from my mistakes. And I was like, maybe we can do a whole podcast about this. So I'm super excited. I am like all girl fanning right now because the guest this week is someone, believe it or not, I think we've been connected now 10 plus years, have never talked, have never met, have never seen each other face to face. And I'm almost like, I can't believe it's really. So say everybody, hi, it's Jacqueline Gates, my special guest this week. And Jacqueline, just thank you so much for your time. Thank you for when I asked for guests, you were like, me. And I have been following you for so many years, and I want to dive deep into your story. You know what I'm geeking about over with you? You have a passion project of helping women of how, and especially our age. I'm over 50. I know I look like I'm 30. Thank you.
Yes.
You have such a gift for teaching, especially women, how to redefine and it's your STAR program, how to redesign their lives, how to restart, especially for those of us that have gone through whatever it is that they've gone through. I know for me, there came a point when you hit you get to that point, your kids are grown and everyone else, and you're like, is this it? Right? And am I supposed to, this is what I'm supposed to do? I love the fact that you've niched things down. And then I was like, there's a reason you've done that. And that's what I really want to get into your story, because there's a reason you decided to help other women. I was like, in my coaching, that means because you've got one hell of a story and you probably had to do it yourself. So tell everyone who you are. If they haven't met you, I want them to get to hear from you, who you are, a little bit about your background, and let's dive in.
I am enthralled. So thank you for that. So I'm Jacqueline Gates. I am the leading lady. That's my current moniker. It changes all the time, but that's the one I'm going with right now. And I've been in the online space for a very long time. And before that, as you can probably hear from the accent, so I'm Nigerian born of English parents, raised in South Africa, who spent 25 years in the States and now is in England. That the accent kind of gets a little muddled. But throughout that time, so in South Africa, I was on stage for 25 years. Leading roles were just the norm for me. I would drop in and out of characters all the time. I was kind of B-list famous. And we got to the States. I didn't know who I was. It was a clean slate. We knew one person on the entire continent because we just sold up everything and moved with our 2 kids and 8 suitcases to the States. Because my husband had a computer degree and there was all the Y2K hoopla, right? So that's why we went over, lock, stock, and barrel. And it was going to be an adventure. And we didn't know whether we would stay or we would. Anyway, we ended up staying. And we became naturalized Americans. And I never really went back on stage because my American accent sucks. I'm very good at English accents. Cannot do an American accent, which means that I can't really do American theater because I stand out like a sore thumb. So I was at the time interested in network marketing. And I joined Facebook in 2007. And then I started doing network marketing, and I started kind of just sharing on Facebook my thoughts. Chronic oversharer was kind of what I thought of myself as. So fast forward 6 network marketing companies, and I've failed dismally at. And I ended up in 2010 with, so now I'm about, what am I, 45? No, whatever, 47, somewhere around there. Anyway, I'm now $4,500 in debt because of everything that I tried to buy to make myself successful in my network marketing companies, all the brochures and the auto ships and all the others, like, yeah. And I had, so my detox secret, I had kept this a secret from my husband, and I had to come clean. It was bad. It was, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when you're not earning anything, it's a lot of money. And so I had to come clean, and God bless him. He looked at me and said, "You're totally capable of paying this off on your own. I'm not going to do it for you because you did it in secret without my consent. I will stand surety." I mean, he was there to help if I needed it, but basically I had to pay it off myself. So I went to Starbucks and I worked for $8 an hour to pay off $4,500 in debt. But in Starbucks, it became a chrysalis for me because all of a sudden I had kind of a stage, right? I had people coming up to talk to me, and I had colleagues that I could communicate with. And because I was so much older than most of the youngsters that were there, I ended up coaching and talking about my experiences and my viewpoints on life and, all sorts of things. And a customer came up and he said to the young lady at the counter, "I want Jackie to make my latte because she's the best barista there is." And I went, I said, "Because I'm the best barista there is, right?" And he went, "Oh, you're so much more than a barista. You're the goddess of lattes." And I went, "Absolutely, I am." And so I immediately took this title as a kind of role. And I thought, well, what would the goddess of lattes be wearing? What would she look like? What would she say? How would she go? All this kind of stuff. And so I was dressed up. I had Chanel pearls and full face of makeup. I was the most glamorous barista you ever saw. But I also started sharing on Facebook and YouTube. I started talking about this, about my experiences. And at this point, I really had nothing to sell because I had done what I called my great quitting, where I went on Facebook and I said, "I'm giving up on everything. I've been in 6 network marketing companies, and the only common denominator is me. And I have to work on me." And that was part of the coming clean about the debt and all the things. And then, so the goddess of lattes kind of got to be a thing. And then slowly it just became the goddess. I became the goddess known as Jackie. And I really dove into this persona, right? It became a role until eventually I didn't have to use it anymore. People just started referring to me as goddess or, goddess Jackie or whatever. And it was a phase, I think, during the 80s and 90s where everybody was goddessing. But anyway, it really worked for me. And then I decided that, and then Starbucks demanded that I wear a baseball cap. The end, I resigned the following day. There was just, we can't possibly do that. And this is both my eccentricity and my individuality, right? I will admit to the financial privilege of not having to, but at the same time, I went straight over and started working for Victoria's Secret because I still had debt to pay. And this was a whole nother level of glamour. So now I'm actually doing what my grandmother did. My grandmother used to make and fit bras she was a corseteer. So it was really lovely. And besides, it's so glamorous, right? I started a vast collection of matching bras and knickers, which I still am addicted to. And again, the coaching part, the talking to, just keeping these girls, they were all girls, just coaching and sharing everything on Facebook and YouTube. Until one day I get an email from a lady in Australia who said, I have spent the past 2 days watching everything you've recorded and reading everything you've written. And will you coach me to walk your path? I had no idea what that meant. So I called my own friend, mentor, and said, what's a coach and how do I do this? And she said, of course you can coach. Just help her. That's what she's asking. It's just help her. Okay. So I said, fine. I told her I'd never done this before. I'm happy to share everything I know. And I charged her $50 an hour.
Back then, that was great money.
Quite something. She was an entrepreneur, so she marked it off with taxes, so it was good. And this, of course, when I'd gone from $8 an hour, now suddenly I'm making $50 an hour. And I was just like, okay, this is the thing here.
Yeah.
And I just started talking about what I knew. And then, and this whole acting as if thing became, I realized that when you want to act as if, you have to live as if, because it's not fake it till you make it. That's a whole, please don't get me on that soapbox. But you have to, if you want to act as if you are somebody, you have to set the stage. You have to change the scenery. And that happened in 2006. So by this time, I'm working for Barnes & Noble in Minnesota. I'm bitterly cold and deeply unhappy with the weather. My daughter's in college. My son is only just scraping by in his final year in high school. My husband has a 16-mile commute. And life is okay. We're doing it. But it's not wonderful. And then I read The Secret. I only happened to read The Secret because I was at Barnes & Noble when it came out. And it gave me permission to be in charge of my life. It told me that I could be not just the star of my life, but the director and the script writer as well. I know now, you know, The Secret's terribly mainstream, but it was my introduction to law of attraction, to mindset work, to feng shui, to all the energetics, right? And in the book, it said, you have to act as if you already are who you want to be. It's like, act as if I got that. I've been doing that. I'm so good at that. So I, according to the book, said, make out a list of what you want to be and do and have. So that's what I did. And then it said, start acting as if. And top of my list was that we moved somewhere warmer, that my son was doing better at school, that my husband didn't have to commute, and that we had a house that looked like one of the ones on my vision board. And those were the sort of double story. At the time, I was living in a split level, you know, standard Minnesotan house. I wanted a gracious porch and a double hallway, and I wanted glamour. I started acting as if. So I told my husband about this, and he was right on board. So we started acting as if we were moving. Started collecting boxes from work and packing the things I knew I wanted to take with me. I started staging my house as though I was going to sell it. I started putting my set wardrobe out. So like, this stuff I'm not going to wear because it's cold weather stuff and I'm not going to be cold anymore. Even when I was shoveling the driveway at 5:30 in the morning, I would say, this is the last time. I'm not going to have to do this next winter, so I can pause and just enjoy how beautiful it is. Everything changed. When people started complaining about the weather, I'd say, oh, it's okay, we're moving, it's fine. And within 6 months, my life had completely changed. We sold our house to the second person that walked in for full asking price. We bought a house in Georgia for the same price, but twice the size. My husband went in to tell his boss that he was leaving, and his boss said, you can't leave, would you like to work remote? So that was that. And my son found a homeschooling university that took his grades from just scraping by to 3.9.
Wow.
In 6 months. And I was sold, absolutely sold. So at this point, I'm now hitting 50 and I'm going, so what next? What do I do? What do I do? And that's when things got hard, actually, because beginner's luck is a thing, right? And now I was just making it so complicated. But I had a lot of learning to do. And I started making small programs. Some of them bombed, some of them did really well. I kept sharing, kept being on Facebook, kept sharing. But more than anything, I kept being more me. It's like everything is just how much more me. What does Jackie want in this? What does Jacqueline Gates, I had this vision for myself. What would she do in this moment? And we get to this point now where, I'm making really good money. I retired my husband last year. And on a kind of whim, we decided to sell up everything we owned in January and move to England with two suitcases each for an adventure, which we did. And so that's where we are now. We decided we don't like the weather, and being away from the grandbabies is not my favorite thing. So we're moving back. But nonetheless, we sold up every single thing we owned in a very maximalist apartment down to 4 suitcases and came over here to see who it'd be when we got here. So that's where I am now.
That's incredible. So you've definitely reinvented yourself a few times. I can understand
Anytime.
now why it be that authority when people are looking to you on how to do it. You were willing to let go in order to grow. So you have a lot of my respect. Tell me something about the goddess persona, because you have hung on to that even now. And how has that helped you in business?
Initially, it was a banner and it's something to hide behind almost, right? But it became an immersive experience because the goddess theology, right? It's not using this as a spiritual experience, really. It's just that there's a goddess for everything. There seriously is. And you can find an attribute that has a goddess attached and kind of just start to embody that. And see, here, I believe that the woman you want to become is a role, theatrical role, that you can start living now. You can start acting as if right now. So if there's a goddess that particularly resonates, and for me, the goddess Vesta was huge because she was the goddess of the hearth. She was the first, she had the first college, the first convent, so to speak. She had the Vestal Virgins. She was state religion, but she was also in everybody's house. And the mythology is absolutely beautiful. And so when I was doing nesting, which is using your home as a manifesting tool, the goddess Vesta was huge in that. So whenever I had a query, it kind of allows you to zoom out and get a different perspective so that you're not all stuck in your own weeds. You can go look out and go, okay, so if I were the goddess Vesta, what would I do about this? What would I think about that? In business, what it did was allowed me to play with different aspects of what I was doing so that it could appeal to all kinds of women, not just the women that were doing business necessarily, right? It also gave me courage, and it gave me a kind of, well, let's see what happens, rather than I'm too scared to do anything.
Yeah.
I was paralyzed for a long time. I think I had a bad experience. I made a decision, and for the longest time I blamed her, and it wasn't her fault, it was me. And I had to take responsibility for it. But that really did catch me going, how can I sell if I don't invest? And what I know now is that your path is made by walking it. Your business plan is laid moment by moment. Yes, you can strategize, but in the moment, that person opposite you giving the most excellent service you can is by far the best business plan there is. And after that, finding out how to talk about it is the next step. But people get it asked about face, right? They'll talk about it first and then get good at it. Say, no. Do it all first. Get good at it first. And then you will have so much to talk about.
Do you think that's a big problem right now with social media? Because social media is out, for me, I think there's so much noise. Everyone's just blah, 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 blah. And there's a saying that goes around, the person that has the most conversations wins, right? The person who talks the most gets more sales. They get more reps. They get whatever it is, fill in the blank. You're kind of saying the opposite. And I like that avenue because it gives you a sense of confidence. Often there's so much noise and they're winging it. They're throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. I'm curious on, do you get any pushback when you tell people like become knowledgeable and confident before you open up your mouth and start blasting it all over social media? And do you think social media has, for better or worse, for businesses? Because you do a lot. I mean, most of your business is online, right?
Yeah.
Has social media, like, I'm really divided on,
Oh, me
has
too.
it been good or bad?
I have been, as I said, I've always been on Facebook. I didn't do Twitter because I didn't like the 120 character limit. I waffle far too much for that. So it's always been Facebook and occasionally YouTube. I've watched the noise increase, but in that the conversations have decreased. In my world, though, my engagement is always, I don't always sell. And I think that's because I just share. I don't always, I talk to people about the stuff that's going on and I give them my viewpoint on things. And I have had people who say, so when you go to my Facebook wall, you will see my glamour shoots. I mean, I have a good photo shoot and I'm always dressed to the nines and I love my glamour photography. So it looks very much like you may see one of the other coaches that have all the bells and whistles. However, I think we humans are very smart. We have a BS meter that we can, if we learn to trust it. Social media has kind of blurred the lines. It makes it harder to trust our BS meter. But if you can hone in, you will be able to see what's just a veneer and what's real. And a lot of the time it is, with me, what you see is what you get. What you see is hella glamorous because that's me. And I spend far too long dimming my light to make other people comfortable or to not be seen as one of those coaches, right? So, and it's just like, no, this is me. I am all in on myself. I think my skills got better the more I paid attention to them. And when I did that, people became my best marketing tool. Other people popping onto my wall to say, you blew my mind. This, I'm enjoying my housework more. I've reinvented myself. Look at my haircut. I finally got the courage. Whatever it is, my wall is full of other people. That comes from being devoted to my craft. And I see everything from a theatrical perspective. But if I'm on stage and I'm doing a role, the word of mouth is entirely dependent on how good I am in that role and how I move them and the story I tell and the way they feel when they leave. And so that carried through to my work now. How do I move you? How can I help you move yourself? How do you feel when you leave my space? Those are the things. And I have clients that stay with me I've got clients that stayed with me all the time, right? And new people who come into my world, they seldom leave. So you can't fake it. You really can't. You have to be more you. And unfortunately, that is counterintuitive because you want to model yourself on something, on someone. And also, you see everything that appears to be working. But the longer I've been in this game, and I know you found the same thing, people look like they're making 10K a month with ease. And meantime, they're living paycheck to paycheck. And the stress of that is it's dreadful. And so they get graspy because they have to.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody comes into one of my, I don't really do, I don't like the experience of a sales call, so I don't do them very often. However, if you have questions about us working together, I'm quite happy to do that. But I am not going to convince you to work with me. People, I think, who have to convince you, that's the red flag for me. When they try and coach you through your objections or they dismiss your own reticence, I'm much more inclined to say, do your due diligence, brace your reticence, see what's under there. Is that fear? Is that an old pattern? Or is it really just that right now you don't have the money or the time to do this?
Yeah, just be honest.
And when you know, I'll be here.
Yeah.
And I've always been here, right? I mean, I have people who come back. I had a girl come back the other day. No, I said the other day. Sorry, my months have blurred, but at the beginning of the year. And she is moving house. And I helped her. I coached her through moving house because I've moved 8 times in 12 years, right? I got this down to science. And I coached her through who you are when you let go of your stuff and move it halfway across the world and start up another place. it's all an identity shift, right? It's so much more than packing boxes and moving literal stuff. And she popped into my messenger and said, I'm moving again. Can I hire you? And it was really that. It was like, sure, a month, let's do it. Because, and every time she moves, or every time people move, they come back. It's not, I mean, that's it's one of my skill sets, but just really interesting that when you deliver excellent service, you can rely on that. You absolutely can. But it's so difficult to ignore what appears to be working.
You just nailed it. That's key. Let's talk about that. What appears to be working often isn't. So you have a talent of identifying that. Let's talk about that, because I think that's a touch point that I think a lot of people just kind of gloss over. Well, I get a residual check, or I'm in this relationship and my needs are taken care of. Well, it appears to be working, right? How can you help somebody who's stuck? I call it almost like stuck in comfort.
Yeah, it's that comfort zone, right? I mean, it really is very comfortable. And it's funny because in the beginning, when I was being mentored, I would say, I really need to date a serial killer or something because I have zero stories to tell. I'm married to my first boyfriend still, and it's 42 years. I still talk to I have drama. And that in itself has been really hard because if you have a story, that's good sales, right? That's good marketing, plenty of people. And don't get me started on people. This is a vulnerable post, blah, 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 and here's buy my stuff. So what appears to be working, it may well be working. Let's not dismiss the people who are actually really nailing it, right? What works for them. However, it works for them. I have tried so many things that work for others and they don't work for me. And then what happens is then I think I'm the one who's not getting it right because I can't be successful doing what they are doing. You have to do what you need to do. And you actually know more than you think you do. So if you just go onto Facebook and you talk about the thing you do and why you love doing it, people will listen. And when they do, you have more of a conversation about why they're listening, what's in it for them, and how you may be able to help them. What appears to be working is worth trying, but as an experiment. Do not try to become somebody else. It is unsustainable. So, for example, I have seen plenty of people who have nailed it on TikTok. I go there and I feel all sort of, yeah, I just can't. So I'm not on TikTok. Didn't go onto Twitter. Lots of people nailed it on Twitter. I kept thinking I should. I threads for a minute. No.
Didn't we all?
YouTube, however, I have videos there. I have a video there from 2017 on the Goddess Guide to Being Eccentric. And on there, a person wrote that he had watched this when he was 17 years old. That must have been when I first made it. And he said he was 30 now, and he was a gay, pagan artist and living his best life. And he didn't know it was possible until he saw that video. He watched it every day. And he said, thank you, Mrs. Gates, for showing me that you can be eccentric and successful. And it's just like, oh my God. And that is just something that I shared with no agenda, with nothing. So this is what I'm the trouble is when you're new in a career, and especially if it's your second career, if you've had your kids and you've done the wifing and you've done all that thing and you can't woke up one morning and you're 50 and you're going, dear God, I need something to do. It gets to be very hard to not copy everybody else. The secret is being more you. Bring everything of you to the table, because that way you are a niche of one. There is nobody you can be, nobody who can. I mean, there are plenty of women who are teaching reinvention or, acting as if or whatever. They can't do it like me. They certainly can't do it like me. And the minute I get worried about how they're doing it, I am putting a lampshade on myself, right? I am dimming my light. Almost everything I'm come to believe, except for safety concerns, and I will always put that caveat, but almost every problem can be solved by adding more you, not less.
Wow, that was good.
you.
That was excellent. And
It's true though. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more, and that I throw in some glamour magic, and I throw in house as a manifesting tool, and acting as if, and I've got this weird meld, right? I mean, I do stagecraft. Every idea is a role, so it's stagecraft and magic and house care and brain science, and those four things together give me my body of work.
somebody had challenged, they did a Facebook challenge of, remember the glamour shots back in the 90s and
Oh God,
80s?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I found mine and I should have favored it on my phone so I can get to it. But you cracked me up because you made me realize and remember we need to bring those back because it just made you feel so incredible when
It,
you got them done, right?
yeah.
You know what, I'll find it and I'll put it in the comments here, but I remember I found these glamour shots and I posted it and I was like, wow, I remember how I felt when I was glammed up to the nines and I had my photo taken and you almost have the crooked neck because they're contorting you and all these
Yeah,
different
but
things.
you're the center of attention for a moment.
Oh,
It's so
and the clothes and everything else. And it just made me feel invincible. Like I could do
Mhm,
absolutely anything. I think you're onto something. I really do. I
mhm.
know you're onto something. You know you're onto something. That's why you're so successful after all these years. You speak it like it is. And I love the fact that you tell people just to be more you. My challenge has always been, and you probably find this a lot in your coaching. I know I'm great, but I don't know if I'm that interesting. And
Uh,
especially if, for women, like I've been married 25 years and got three kids and, I'm very, et cetera, et cetera. When someone had suggested I do this podcast, I was like, no one's going to, oh, what am I going to talk to? And they go, you know, everybody, Donna, you know, everyone. And I'm like, oh, and I booked dozens of interviews right away. And I was so shocked and I was like, I forget that even me, and I don't know if it's humbleness or lack of, insecurity or, lack of confidence, insecurity, or just a true humbleness. I have no idea. And honestly, I don't care. People forget other people are watching you.
oh yeah.
And people forget that even if you think you have zero influence, someone is watching you and someone is waiting for you. And so I applaud what you're doing, especially with women. It's a passion project of mine of helping women in particular as well. I want to talk about some of your programs that you have because I think
Hmm.
that you're on to something really phenomenal. So tell me, what is your number one product? Is it the STAR program?
At the moment, it's Spotlight, so you
Oh,
can get
let's talk about that. Let's
step
talk about
into
it.
the
What is it?
spotlight with me.
Okay.
Star program is stage techniques for accelerated reinvention. It is my methodology. In the Spotlight program, we take that methodology and we point it towards your career or your most audacious, ambitious goal. I'm all about us reclaiming our ambition. That's where we go, oh God, I don't know if I could, but I really would love to. That thing. Because your future self is a role that you can play right now. So that version of you that has that thing, that is doing that thing, that is embodying that ambition, you can start playing her now. You can start
Wow. It's
being her.
almost like you're
And
manifesting with the reinventing and manifesting and creating a laser focus of you're going forward this way instead of
always,
distracting.
yes. Yes. And so what
Interesting.
we do is we hone the role, which basically we clarify that future self. And we untangle any patriarchal nonsense about ambition and what, you being a bitch or a diva or any of those things, right? We get that sorted. That's where the coaching comes in. Then who am I to? That's the other side. And then we tweak your wardrobe. We zhuzh up your environment because your environment has to speak to you and clothes speak about you. So this is part, you can't feel invincible if you're wearing, yesterday's breakfast on your t-shirt, this kind of thing. So we shush that up. We maybe words we don't use anymore. There may be habits that you start. These are the kind of things. So we take that goal role, we make her real, and we start imprinting her. You start living as if you are her right now. Spotlight program, what makes it unique is that it's a hybrid of one-on-one, mastermind, and group. So the reason I do all three, one-on-one is because nothing will get you clear on your future self faster than working with me. Seriously, one-on-one, I can nail it. I've been doing it a very long time. I know how to do that. Once you get that coordinate, that thing set in your inner GPS, then we start implementing nesting. We start tweaking your environment, looking at your wardrobe, playing with your habits, what you say, how you say it, how you show up on Zoom, how you show up at the office, how you greet your kids in the morning, all of these things. We play with them, right? And in that, you get my STAR programs, you get the methodology as well. And then you're in the company of 8 or 10 other women who are also doing something audacious or ambitious. Not all of them are doing business stuff. My last cohort, I had a lady who had a massive renovation project of her 10,000 square foot home, right? So she was in charge. And so she had to hold that capacity to be in charge of holding that massive renovation. And then I've had others who are in corporate, others who are self-employed, others who are just starting in corporate after having done all the mom things, right? There have been many, it's purely business focused coaching because you are not purely business. No woman is solo, is single faceted, right? We are everything. We get to be everything, and we get to be paradoxical, and we get to love what we want and what we love, and we get to expand into who we're being, because everything that you've been till now has auditioned you for that role. You are perfectly cast for who you want to be. You got the part. You just have to learn to navigate towards her. And that's what Spotlight does.
That's incredible.
So,
That's incredible. Well,
and
how does someone find you or connect to you, or where do I point people when they say, wow, I want to get to know her, I want to get to connect to her, I want to learn about her? How does someone do that?
The best place to meet me is, and to get to know how I am on a daily basis, is Facebook. So I'm on Jacqueline Gates on Facebook, right? And then I am jacqueline-gates.com. My website is there. And actually, right at this minute, if you do go onto Facebook, I have a free class that I delivered yesterday on how to talk to your future self. It is an interview process that I created and have honed over the past couple of years as how to sit opposite your future self and ask her the questions you really want to know.
Wow.
And taught that yesterday, and it's free, and you can get the recording right away. It will introduce you to the way my very peculiar and unusual mind works, and my weirdly magical and very effective methodology.
It works. It works. We'll make sure we put all these links in the caption on YouTube and in our Spotify description. So, because I just want to help you help others. And I think that you have such a gift. You really do. And a beautiful, quirky mind that it is. It is just fabulous. That's what you are, the fabulous, the goddess of fabulous. And I think that's what is amazing about you. What a pleasure. I mean, oh my gosh, you have totally blessed me today. And it was just, I mean, what a pleasure to spend a little bit of time. I know you are extremely busy, especially because you're overseas right now. Just thank you. Just so much gratitude.
And thank you for the invitation. I was so delighted. I mean, it's my favorite thing to be a guest star on somebody else's stage. And, you know, it's just, it's lovely. So thank you for that. And thank you for the honor. I appreciate you hugely.